My thesis has the aim of analyzing two different but wonderful languages, Swahili and English, and the learning process of them in the primary schools of Tanzania. Tanzania is a large country in southeastern Africa, famous for its extraordinary natural beauty. In fact, 4 Tanzanian national parks, for example the Kilimanjaro one, are UNESCO World Heritage Sites, but also for its extreme poverty. Tanzania is ranked 159 out of 187 countries on the Human Development Index of the United Nations Development Programme. The most alarming data is about children. More than 2 million of them live in critical living conditions, and about 3 million are HIV/AIDS orphans. Tanzania is one of the most hit nations in the world. But why did I choose Tanzania? The idea of this work came to my mind during my 2 missionary trips to Tanzania in 2015 and 2016. I could see the awful life conditions of the population, and I could experience how important it is in developing countries to let new generations become respectful men and women through an excellent education. I focused on 2 Tanzanian primary schools. The Kisinga Public School, situated in a village on the mountains along Malawi's border, and Changombe Private School, situated in Dar es Salaam, the vast economic capital city. In Tanzanian education framework, it is fundamental to differentiate public and private schools. In addition to the predictable difference in school fees, private schools offer better facilities, well-prepared teachers, and most of all, a more valid competence of English language, given that it is not only a school subject, but also the teaching language. Nevertheless, almost 80% of the children who succeed in finishing primary schools do not have a sufficient English knowledge to go to the secondary schools. But why does this happen? Studying Swahili and English gave me the answer. Swahili is a Bantu language, an African one, which has Arab origin. Over the centuries, thanks to colonialism, it had acquired some English characteristics, especially in grammar and morphology. One of the most clear differences between English and Swahili is pronunciation. Paradoxically, it would be easier for Tanzanian children to learn Italian due to the consonants of the two languages. For example, the Swahili word baba in English is father, and in Italian is papà. For this reason, the learning process of a second language must be very similar to the one used for a first language. The teaching methodology follows the scheme observation, which means that the teacher encourages children to observe carefully the world that surrounds them. Understanding, all the concepts, words, images caught in the first phase are discussed in class using the second language with the classmates and the teacher. Application. After many debates in class, the children make exercises and games using the concepts learned in English. Unfortunately, due to the incompetence of the teachers, the lack of school books, and to the scarce chances for the children to exercise in English outside the school, this method had no effectiveness in most of Tanzanian schools. In confirmation of this, after being present to some lessons, I tested the children of Kisinga and Changombe schools by handing them out a little English test. As can be seen in the pictures, the test has also some sketches in order to facilitate the comprehension to the children who have not a full mastery of English yet. Of the 30 tested children of Changombe, only few of them needed a translation of the test in Swahili, and the majority was able to complete the test without any help, showing the efficiency of the school and of the English teachers. Contrarily, in Kisinga, none of the children was able to complete the test without a help. Although the questions had been read in English many times and slowly, none was able to answer without a translation of the entire test in Swahili. The example of these children highlights the various problems of public schools, especially the ones of the rural areas. I underline that in private primary schools, English is used as the teaching language. I am convinced that forcing the students to study every subject in a language that is not their mother tongue is like a cultural violence. I know the importance for Tanzanian people to know such a global language as English, to be an active part of the more and more international world. But I'm firmly convinced that only through Swahili they can ameliorate the results of the pupils in learning a second language. In public primary schools, the shortcomings are in the few hours dedicated to English learning and in the inefficient methodology. The same shortcomings that the Italian teaching system has, even though there is a huge economical, cultural, and political gap between the nations. This is a clear and sad evidence of the inappropriateness of our English teaching system. In conclusion, according to my experience with the children of the primary schools, I believe that differences in teaching methodologies between private and public schools must be eliminated in order to give the same opportunities of a good education and future to every child. I also believe that English as a subject of primary school's curriculum must be improved by increasing the weekly English lessons, by giving school materials to all primary school students, both private and public, and by training teachers better. Knowledge must be active in order to teach children to be part of the world as real men and women, masters of their own destiny.